All right, so I have a question for you today. What triggers you? I mean, what really gets under your skin when someone says something to you? And why does it trigger you while others seem to be able to take it in stride without it ruining their day? And I used to wonder this a lot. It seemed like I was the only one who would get upset and triggered at something that somebody said that I didn't even know why I was getting triggered. I don't know why I was the one being triggered when everyone else seemed to be okay when the same thing was said to them. So today we're going to discuss how to overcome this and build more mental resilience to control how you feel in any given conversation, no matter what's said. Hey everyone, welcome to Real Influence. My name is Joey Vaillancourt, and I'm your friend and fellow traveler companion in your search for authentic influence that has a positive impact in your life and those in it. And today's conversation is going to revolve around a real world example with my mom. And I love my mom. For those of you who know her, she's like a saint on earth, and she does so many great things for so many wonderful people, but she's one of her own worst enemies, her own worst critics. And the voice, the dialogue, the beliefs she has about herself sometimes makes me cringe, and I want to help her as much as possible. And there was a recent event that happened at our home. She sat down on a coat. The coat was on a hook hanging up on her coat, and when she sat on it, it broke the hook. And she immediately went into, wow, I can't believe I did that. I'm so sorry, and I'm such a klutz. I always do these things. It was just like set off a cascade of beliefs, of emotions, and shame, and guilt, and anger, and frustration, and sadness. And then it made me feel sad for her, and it made me feel sad because, one, in reality, she's not a klutz. It was an accident, and it made me feel sad that she feels that way about herself. And this is going on in a conversation in her head, potentially more than just in this one instance. And I've been guilty of this myself. We've all experienced these situations where something happens and we auto-label ourselves as a failure, not enough, not good enough, or it never works out for us. There's so many different versions of this. And for me, it's as simple as when my wife, Monika, will ask me, hey, I need a bit more help with the kids. I sometimes get defensive. I'm like, how come she's asking for help? Of course I would help with the kids. But this is all deeply rooted in my belief about myself. And in the moment, I don't feel like I'm enough. I don't feel like I'm contributing enough. I don't feel heard. I don't feel seen. I don't feel recognized. And then she could also say that, hey, I want to spend more time with friends. This is something that also recently happened. She's like wanting to spend more time with friends. And I'm thinking, we do a lot. We travel all the time. We do see friends. We've got Christmas coming up. We've got this event. Like, how can you think we're possibly not doing enough? But that's all a defense mechanism based on an old pattern of thinking that I've been conditioned to believe. And I can date back exactly when it started to happen, whenever my dad used to feel the same way about my mom when she wanted to do more things, and my dad felt like he wasn't enough in those situations. So I'm able to now look at it and say, that's a thought. It doesn't belong to me. It's just a thought that I have. It doesn't mean it defines me. So in those moments, I might still feel like that, I freeze and I feel defensive, but then I have to breathe through it, recognize that it's just a thought, it's a belief, it's not a true belief, and I can make a new belief about it. And in reality, separate what the fictional tale is versus what really is happening. And in this case, it's like my wife wants a bit of help. She's asking, okay, great. Of course she needs help. I want to help. And if it's visiting friends, of course she wants to visit friends. Why wouldn't she want to? And how can I entertain this? How can I fix it? Or not take responsibility of it and fix it? Again, old belief pattern kicking in. But like, how can I support her? What does she need? Because it's not about me in that moment. So the key insights that I'm talking about today were taught to me through another coach that I'm working with. His name is David Bayer. And he's got a great program called Mindhack. I'm going to drop a link in the description below. I recommend you take the entire program. There's a free version and a paid version. I recommend them both. Transformed my life and the family life that we have today. But one of the things he said at a recent event was that trauma isn't what happens to you. It's what happens inside you. And the problem that we perceive isn't actually the problem. It's the meaning we attach to it and the beliefs that grow from that meaning. As an example, if you break something, you could think you're a klutz, or you could just look at it and say, I broke something. That's too bad. That's it, right? But it's the meaning we associate it to it. If you get fired from your job, not a great situation to be in, but not the end of the world. But if you associate that to, I knew it was going to fail. I always fail. I never actually amount. I'll never achieve it. I'll never reach my financial success. I'll never reach a career success. When in reality, there could be a brand new opportunity emerging that you're not even aware of, that's built into your plan, your journey. But it's the meaning that we're giving it in those moments. And those meanings can be very, very destructive. And I think about this often with my children. And if you don't have children, just think about if you have a team, if you work in an environment where there's multiple people, you know how detrimental words can be. And for recent events that I've been a part of, I've heard parents calling their kids big crybabies. Oh, she's always overreacting. They just don't listen to me. Just let me do it. Mommy knows better. All of those things are conditioned patterns now that are going to be cascading in that kid's life, because not only did they hear it once, if they're in an environment they hear it multiple times, they start to define themselves based on that. And they might be 5 years old now, but I'm proof, and I can guarantee that later in life, they're going to continue to manifest and repeat that same scenario, reinforcing that belief that's not true, that's been assigned to them by somebody else. And we all innocently do this. This isn't to put blame on you if you're doing this or this has happened and your parents have done it to you. Nobody actually means wrong intention. They'll have the right intention. But it's up to us to start to separate these stories and these beliefs and form new beliefs that are more empowering, more liberating, and give you more freedom and associate things to what you want to focus on. So we're going to walk through some limiting beliefs and some empowering beliefs. I think I want to start with some examples so that we know exactly what the left and right quadrants look like. So here are a couple examples. When someone corrects you at work, the limiting belief could be, I'll never get it right. The empowering belief is, I'm learning, and every correction or every feedback is an opportunity for my growth. When someone comments on your appearance, even if it's a good comment, you could take it as a negative comment. If someone says, hey, I really like your hair. If you're insecure, you might be like, oh gosh, like it's not even that good. It was kind of a bad haircut. You automatically go into a negative loop. So if someone comments on your appearance, and if it is a negative, it could be, you're not enough again. When in reality, it's, I am enough and I'm worthy, and it's not defined by this one person's comment, because there's multiple people who've probably told you that you do look good in that shirt, or that haircut is a good haircut. And we want to focus on things. We're going to talk about the reticular activating system in a second, which is a part of our brain that picks up and chooses what we focus on. So another one is when you get fired from your job. The limiting belief could be, I'll never be enough. I'll never succeed. Empowering belief is, this is a new direction. I have the resilience to turn it into something positive. At some point in time in your life, you didn't have a job. So you have the evidence that you can get a job. Even if it's not the job that you anticipated getting, it's going to be the outcome that you needed. Right? So just continue to believe in yourself, because there's evidence in your life that probably supports the next step that you can't see, that you have to lean into, and replace fear with faith. Another one is a loved one yells at you. Okay, this happens, right? Somebody could get reactive. It could be a parent, it could be your spouse. Then you could immediately think of is, I'll never make them happy. I'm not worthy of love. The empowering belief is, I'm worthy of love, and conflict doesn't define my value or my ability to bring joy to others. And we're going to talk about how to really establish this new belief, because right now you might be thinking, yeah, that's great to hear, but how do I start to actually believe it? So we're going to get into the 5-step framework in just a second, but I really want to establish the limiting and empowering belief. So I'm going to give 2 more examples. When you break something, it could be, I'm so clumsy. We can move that into an empowering belief, saying, accidents happen. This doesn't define who I am. And I'm generally a very careful person, and I don't break things every single minute of the day. So obviously the evidence isn't there to support it. Things break, and it happens to everybody. When someone cuts you off in traffic, again, like this happens, and it sucks when it does happen. And of course you get reactive in the moment because your fight or flight kicks in. You try to survive, and then immediately you see it as a threat. So there's this evolutionary belief that we all have, but limiting belief could be, people are inconsiderate, you can't trust people do you harm. When in reality, sometimes people make mistakes. It's not personal. They might have been in a hurry. They might not have seen you. So you're having this big conversation with yourself and this limiting belief, and you feel suffering, you feel pain, you feel anger. When in reality, the person might not have even ever seen you, doesn't even care about you. So why should you put attention and focus and care to them, or associate this meaning and this suffering through it, right? So I want you to just understand that as we talk about the reticular activating system. So again, I'm not a scientist or doctor, but fortunately for us, ChatGPT and Google searches, as well as great educators out there, have already figured this out. The reticular activating system is the part of the brain. It's called RAS for short, so we can use the acronym. It's basically like a filter that decides what you notice and focus on every day. Think of it like a mental bouncer. It's standing at the door, letting only certain things get your attention based on what you care about and what you're focused on. So say you're really into getting a new car. Like you've been researching it and it's on your mind, and suddenly you're seeing the car everywhere you go. It's not like the car magically appeared more often. It's just that your brain is now activated and it's decided, hey, this is important to you, so we're going to keep an eye out for it. Or if you're stressed or worried, the reticular activating system is going to pick up on those things that confirm the feeling, right? Like things that might go wrong. But when you're focused on the positive, the new empowering belief, the new decision, the reticular activating system helps you notice evidence and opportunities that align with those new goals. So it is really like the song that says, always look on the bright side of life. It's a cheesy, old, corny song, but it really is that simple. It's choosing what you focus on, noticing what you're focusing on, and then making a new decision to focus on the thing that you want to attract more of, not the thing that you want to limit from happening. And another cool thing is it actually helps control whether you're alert or sleepy. So it's filtering what's coming at you, and it's deciding what matters to you. And it's helping you stay awake or fall asleep. And it's like the behind the scenes manager that shapes how you see the world, depending on what you're tuned into, frequency and energetically. So now let's talk about, there's 5 steps that you can easily implement. I recommend you try these, and it's something I do almost on a daily basis. If not, I definitely entertain this weekly, and we're going to talk about the 5 steps of this. So the number 1 step you want to start with is you want to notice the trigger and recognize the emotion. Awareness is key in this. So identify how you feel and what specific thought it sparked, such as, I broke a glass, I'm a klutz, my wife yelled at me, I'm not enough, or I'll never succeed. So just be aware of that emotion, that thought, and what exactly is it, and where is it in your body that you're feeling it. We're kind of going a little deeper than just the top level, surface level, but ultimately noticing the trigger, recognizing the emotion you feel, and then recognizing where it resides in your body. And we're going to talk about in later episodes the forgiveness framework of how to process these things. And people hold trauma in different areas of their body. So we'll leave it at that for now, but you want to try to recognize it, at least know that you've been triggered. The second thing you're going to do, you're going to reflect on the origin. Try to trace where the belief began. Did it start with a particular experience or someone else's words? What happened? When did it happen? And who did it happen with? The important part of this, we're going back to the forgiveness framework, is we want to identify that this thought is a manufactured thought. It's a manufactured belief that took place at some point that got reinforced over time. And then you started to build evidence because you were focused on it so much that now it's been established and conditioned in your life as the truth. When in reality, we're going to talk about that it's not the truth, and you can choose your own new truth and realize that it's been there the entire time. You just haven't been focused on it. So listen, you're doing great. Don't feel like you're a failure in this by going through this part of it. This is really important to start to trace back, because now you detach from the feeling and the emotion, and you notice that, hey, this was just something that happened. This isn't actually something that I am. And then number 3 is you want to separate fact from belief. Step back, separate what actually happened from the meaning you're attaching to it. Example, again, if you drop the glass, the fact is just that a glass broke. It doesn't mean you're clumsy. It doesn't define who you are. Again, do the math on it. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. How often are you breaking things? How often are you getting fired? If you choose to focus on those things, you're going to notice them more. But if you look at the math, they're not happening that often. Number 4 is you're going to build an evidence list, and you're going to make a decision matrix. This in itself is a whole different lesson, but we're going to go through it really quickly. Thing you're going to do is you're going to challenge the limiting belief by gathering evidence that counters it. If the belief is, I'll never have enough, remind yourself of what you do have: food, shelter, loved ones, accomplishments. You once wanted a car, now you have a car. You once wanted a home, now you've got a home. You once wanted a job, you got the job. So you have evidence. And even if your car got totaled, even if you lost your job, you know that you can get a new car. You know that you can get a new job. And if something happens in a relationship, you know that you've been in a relationship in the past and you can get a new one. So what you're going to do on the left-hand side of the quadrant, on a piece of paper, pen and pad, preferably if you can, you want to journal this. You want to put the limiting belief on the left-hand side. I am a klutz. Okay, that's a limiting belief. We're not going to focus on evidence. We're not going to focus on the problem anymore. We're going to shift over to the new decision, the new empowering belief. So the new empowering belief is, I'm generally very careful with things, and you don't have to focus on the negative, but it's just leave it at that. It could just be as simple as, I'm generally very careful with things, and I take care of the people and the things in my life. What's the evidence you have for that? Again, well, today I drove my car. I didn't crash it. Okay, great. I've been taking care of my computer and I've had it for 10 years. Okay, great. So then we're not a klutz, and we don't always do stupid things, and it doesn't always happen. It happens on occasion, but the new belief is that you're careful with things and you take care of your stuff. The new belief is you're worthy of love, and you've seen worthiness of love in your life in evidence that now you can list. If you're having a hard time with finding your own evidence, you can also borrow from other people's evidence that you've yet to see in your life. Other people are acting in the way that you might want to act. You might want to borrow from their experience, their evidence that you want to bring into your life. I noticed that my neighbor is really meticulous with his car, and I want to be more like that. So I'm going to list that as my evidence. You're going to continue to build this evidence, and what you're going to do is continue activating the reticular activating system to pick up on those things. You're going to start to notice them more now. And this is the key distinction on how you change and transform these limiting beliefs into empowering beliefs. And then the fifth step, which is the most important thing when it comes to either working out or making a habit change, is actually doing the work, right? So you don't just do this once and all of a sudden you're transformed and everything's better and all of a sudden you don't think those things. You still know that you have this thought, but now that's all it is. It's a thought. You recognize it, you see it, you detach from it. You say, oh, hey, look at that thought again. It's happening. And I'm noticing it in my body. Already you've broke the system. You broke the pattern, the cascading emotional effects that's producing when you think that limiting belief. So once you do that, you can say, okay, I'm going to put you over here and I'm going to focus on this other thing, which is my new empowering belief, my new decision of who I actually am and who I want to be. And I'm going to write down some more evidence in my daily matrix today, in my new decision matrix, part of my daily practice. So if you want to get in shape, you got to work out daily. If you want to change beliefs, you got to do this as well daily. It takes maybe 5, 10, 20 minutes, depending on what you're working through. The more you do it, the more you get better. It does get easier. And the more you start picking up on it, and then the more you start to manifest and attract things that you actually produce more evidence for. And that's the beautiful cycle of this whole exercise. The more you start to focus on it, the more you notice it, the more you produce it, the more evidence you have to support the new empowering belief. So listen, if you're consistent with these steps, you'll notice your triggers losing their power. You're going to be feeling more grounded and in more control. And remember, your beliefs are powerful, but they're not permanent. So if you decide that you want to focus on positive, you decide that you are not that person that you used to be, or you're not associating that definition of the old self, and you're defining a new self. We get to recreate ourselves, and it's all through ourselves. It's all done through our mind, our actions, and the things we choose to focus on. So I hope this is helpful. It's been extremely, profoundly impactful in my life. And it's such a simple, free exercise that you can do. And you can also do it with other people and make sure that they know what you're working on, because it's important to have a community of like-minded individuals around you. And if you don't have that environment, I also strongly suggest you look out for a community of people that are also in this work. And again, David Bayer has been an amazing coach for me. And if it doesn't resonate with you, find your coach, find your person. And maybe it's just listening to this podcast, and I hope it is. So thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the like button, and share this episode if it spoke to you. And join us next week as we continue challenging assumptions and building resilience emotionally, mentally, and in the right direction to live the right life that you want to continue to lead with intention. I'll see you in the next episode.